That's right. You heard it. You are not the trauma center. The trauma center is a place, typically in hospitals, in some part of the first floor, designed to create and provide for people who are suffering from trauma. It can be physical, mental, or emotional. My point is, the trauma center is, in fact, equipped to deal with it. We are not. That's right. You heard it here first. We are not. Sometimes we suffer trauma due to abuse, neglect, family violence, community violence, school violence, life threatening accidents and injuries, frightened or painful medical procedures, serious and untreated parental mental illness as children, yeah, loss or separation from people we love, natural or man made disasters, war or terrorist attack, forces displacement, for any reason, a fire, eviction, discrimination, extreme poverty. These are all types of trauma. It's not limited, it's just some examples. They are just examples. How do you know if you have trauma? Well, that's easy enough. You have psychological concerns, anxiety, panic attacks, fear, anger, irritability, obsessions and compulsions, shock and disbelief, emotional numbing, detachment, depression, shame, and guilt, especially if the person dealing with the trauma survived while others didn't. One of the most common forms of trauma is emotional abuse. It's not the only form, but it's the most common form. And it can be the most dangerous because sometimes it's easy for emotional abuse to be hidden and or unrecognized. Unresolved trauma results in us missing or losing time, flashbacks, nightmares, unreasonable attempts to rescue others. That's called fawning. It's also known as fawning, I should say. Unreasonable attempts to rescue others. You ever seen, or watched people in situations and you thought, my God, what are they trying to do and why? Why do they continue, to try in these unreasonable situations to rescue others? Take a look at it. There's something behind it. Extreme fears that appear without reason. You ever been there? Think about it. Because you know what? Everybody suffers trauma at some point in time. I don't care what your denial is. Everybody suffers it to some degree or another. You know, other symptoms might include, divisive and black and white thinking. Like we can't think except in black or white. There's no middle ground or gray areas for us. Those are just some of the symptoms. They're not all of it. Fawning, I spoke to that. It refers to consistently abandoning your own needs to serve others. And typically, we do it to avoid conflict, criticism, or disapproval. Fawning is also called the please and appease disease and is associated with people pleasing and codependency. hmm When you're fawning, you're seeking safety by merging with the wishes, needs, and demands of other people. These are some examples of 5 types of trauma: rejection, abandonment, humiliation, betrayal, and injustice. 5 fundamental wounds. They're fundamental that cause many physical, emotional, and mental ailments. And so, why are we talking about the trauma center? Because so often, many of us are unreasonably unprepared and without the knowledge, skills, and ability attempting to be the emotional trauma center for others. Stay tuned. We're coming back for more. If you see yourself in this, hit me up in the comments and we'll talk about some of the things that you've experienced in attempting to be the trauma center. Have you tried to rescue a family member who was strung out on drugs? Unless you are a counselor, an addiction specialist, or somebody prepared to deal with addiction, you're not rescuing them. It's a lot bigger than that. If love could save people from addiction, there would be none because there's plenty of love, to go around for people who are suffering the disease of addiction. Have you ever tried to pull a kid out of the street when the street was the only thing they knew? You're trying to operate in a trauma center or from a trauma center position. It's not your role. You have to know when to stay in your lane and when to refer and allow for the proper merge. Yeah, let's get it. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. I'll see you again next Friday.